We all remember the BLM riots, the destruction and violence across cities in the US. There were murders, assaults, arson, widespread looting, all in response to the supposed systematic racism of the police force and the notion that just scores of unarmed black men were being killed by police. Well, at the time, I remember quoting data from a leading Harvard professor disputing this entirely flawed notion. And in recent days, we've learned what that Harvard professor, Roland faced for publishing his inconvenient facts, inconvenient to the race baiters.
We didn't find any racial bias in police shootings. Now, that was really surprising to me because I expected to see it. The little-known fact is I had 8 full-time RAs that it took to do this over nearly a year. When I found this surprising result, I hired 8 fresh ones and redid it to make sure. They came up with the same exact answer, and I thought it was robust. And then I went to go give it, and my God, all hell broke loose.
And Ami, let's hear from Professor Fryer just how quickly he faced opposition to his findings. And you can tell me what happened to him next, but let's hear from him.
It was a 104-page, dense academic economics paper with a 150-page appendix, okay? It was posted for 4 minutes when I got my first email. This is full of shit. Doesn't make any sense. And I wrote back, how'd you read it that fast? That's amazing. You are a genius.
Ami, tell me what Claudine Gay, we remember her, tried to do to this man and other academics as well, and why they're so scared of his indisputable findings.
Well, this is one of the few times I say thank God for tenure because, yeah, they would do whatever they can to get rid of him. No, he's become a pariah in the academic community. He's not even like a Republican. This is not a right-wing individual. That's what's crazy about this. He's just a truth teller. Look, you were showing before scenes. I recognize those scenes because I was there. I was at the Portland riots. I watched the BLM rioters attack a federal building, a federal courthouse. I went to many of the, if not most of the BLM riots across the country that year. And I also did my own studies. I actually also spent I went over the 3 years prior to BLM, going through all the different examples of a police officer shooting an unarmed black person. And the numbers are astonishing, okay, and clear. To say there's no racial bias is putting it, frankly, lightly, because actually, when we say any bias at all, you might see it against white people because actually far more white people are killed or unarmed by the police than black people. And if you adjust that number for actual interaction with the police, the number is actually even higher than that. Look, it is gross. And by the way, just to put a finer, underline that. When I did look at those numbers, but how many unarmed black people were killed, you would say, well, even one is too many. First of all, more than half of them were killed by black officers. That takes the racial bias out altogether. And if you continue to break down each individual circumstance, you start seeing that it's not that a white officer is executing a black person, but there's some kind of tragic mistake that went down, or the black person actually attacked the officer. He may have been unarmed, but he attacked. There are a lot of these circumstances that lead you to understand why a shooting may have taken place within context, right? But of course, when the media is looking to talk about this, it is done without any context whatsoever. They want to go to it's narrative uber alles, right, Rita? Narrative over everything. That's and by the way, I want to be clear. This happens with the right and the left. I don't like when people on the right have a narrative and simply won't get off of it, even if proof is shown that they are incorrect. Now, I would argue it happens more on the left and the right, but nonetheless, we have to be intellectually honest here. And the reality is, look, does racism exist in our country and around the world? Of course it does. Does racism exist in the police departments of our country? Of course it does. Has it come to a point where we're saying we have there is a full tragedy going on across our country, an epidemic? Absolutely not. There is no, as I looked at myself as a professor, there's no evidence whatsoever. In fact, the evidence may even show the opposite.
Ami Horowitz, thank you so much for your time this evening.